3, 2.
And good morning and welcome to the Olympian Table today. And today we have some special guests. We're going to talk about the process that buyers go through, with inspections and the importance of doing inspection. And we're also going to talk about the reason why some people actually are waiving inspections at the moment, which I find real difficult to sort of understand. And perhaps we're going to touch a bit on that a little bit later on. But we have a company actually called First Rate Inspections that we've started to use a lot recently, and our agents have been very impressed with the service they give. And first of all, we've got Miss Ricky. Miss Ricky, please introduce yourself. Welcome to the table.
Well, thank you. I'm Ricky Lang with First Rate Inspections. My husband, Chris, and I both own the company. We are a family-owned and operated company. We have both of our daughters work in the business. One does marketing and one is an inspector. My sister also is part of our marketing team, and we have our son-in-law that is a home inspector as well.
That is awesome. And then we've also got
Chris.
Now, is he your better half, your other half, or
He's my better half.
He's your better half. Well, there you go, Mr. Chris.
I think she's my better half. We can't work without each other. So.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Okay, how did you both meet, if you don't mind me asking? Where are you from, Ricky?
I'm originally from Cincinnati. I've been here since 7th grade, so I won't tell you how long that's been. But
do you miss Cincinnati, or are you sort of welcome to Texas?
No, I'm a Texan now.
You're an adopted Texan, literally like me. I say to everybody, I just didn't get here quick enough. How about you, Chris? Where are you from?
I'm from the Beaumont area and lived within 100 miles of there all my life.
Wow, that's pretty cool. How far is Beaumont from Houston? About 40 minutes?
A little over from where we're at, about 2 hours.
Wow, I had some listings at one time in Beaumont, and I used to drive there thinking, wow, there were foreclosures at the time in the 2000s, and it was pretty tough. It seems such a long way, but as the roads have improved and the work they've done at TechStart has been good, and personally, somebody told me the other day they was getting there in an hour. I'm like, don't know where you were driving, but there you go. So obviously, where did you meet?
We met in a nightclub,
almost 30
years ago.
Actually, was 30 years.
Tampico Bay.
Were you disco
in the
dancers?
Northwest side.
Was you disco dancers? Country dancers?
It's more kind of rock.
Yeah,
Mixture.
kind of a rock. Mixture.
It's country and rock. Both.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. What type of music do you like?
We like it all.
You do?
Yes.
Wow. If you was going to pick one different type, what would you like?
I listen to country most in my car.
Music?
I listen to both. I listen to rock in the morning and country in the afternoon.
That's pretty interesting. That's well, welcome to the table again.
Thank you.
And we sort of we're going to talk about some general stuff in the industry. Obviously, on the table, I've said to people that our industry is changing. You either adapt or you die. I think it's important that that we adapt. I do feel the importance of representing your clients and giving your clients value. I don't really feel that the likes of Zillow or Realtor.com or otherwise give value, to be perfectly honest. I think the client, it's more convenience for them. They can click a button and everybody thinks that, that's the value. Like these estimates, they really don't match it to what a good real estate agent can do. So first of all, tell me about First Rate Inspections.
Well, like I said, we are a family-owned and operated business. We do have 9 inspectors, and we've strategically placed them all around Houston. So we have one that lives in League City. We have one in Mont Belvieu. We have one in the Sugar Land area. We have some in Tomball, Cypress, Willis. So we've kind of put people in all different areas so we can serve all the areas surrounding
Okay,
Houston.
so when you say you've got inspectors in different areas.
Yes.
Okay, not offices. Where's your main office?
Our main office is in Cypress.
Okay, good. Now, how long have you been up there?
11 years.
Wow, that's good. That's really good. And what made you get into the business of inspections?
Well, Chris had gone to New Braunfels to help his sister look at homes. And he used to work for Handy Dan, which if you're
Handy
old timer
Dan. Well,
of
I'm not. I've only been here
Houston.
since '95. What's Handy Dan?
Handy Dan used to be a hardware store.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like an Ace Hardware. So it's one of the smaller hardware stores compared to what we have now. And then they kind of went out of business. Builder Square kind of took over, and then Home Depot came in. And so I ended up, when they closed down, Home Depot offered me a job there. So I went to work for Home Depot and worked there for about 12 years. And took a little retail leap to Bed Bath & Beyond. So I went from the outside building the house to actually the interior part of the house, all that type of stuff. And I finally said enough of retail, and I want to do something different. And Ricky had said, why don't you be a home inspector? There's a home inspector school right around the corner here. So I decided it's something I love to do, so I decided to do it, and very glad I did it.
Really, that's cool. Why did you make him be a home inspector?
Well, he loves to educate people. When people would come into Home Depot, he would take them to the place and say, okay, well, you need this and you need that and here and here and here and here. And a lot of his clients would always come back and say, well, where's Chris? He always gives me everything that I need and kind of walks me through how to fix it. And so that's the main philosophy of our company, is to enlighten, not frighten.
That's a good phrase.
Also to let them know that anything's fixable and everything's negotiable.
Absolutely, but I just want to say that's called value, in my opinion.
Yes, very much so.
Educating people, in my opinion, is to value.
Yes.
And that's sort of the first impressions that we've had from some of our agents that have used you for our inspections. And so I've got to ask you this question: why should a buyer choose first-rate inspections?
Well, again, we like to enlighten, not frighten. We like to educate the clients. I feel like with first-rate inspections, you get a lot of great value. We do have warranties, so we give you a 90-day warranty with the home inspection. So from the time we do the inspection to the time you go to the closing table, sometimes if the person empties their refrigerator and puts a lot of garbage or stuff from the refrigerator in the disposal and it doesn't work anymore, then our 90-day warranty will help take care of that. It works hand in hand with any home warranty.
Pretty interesting.
We also have a sewer guard warranty. We can't see the sewer pipes. For 90 days, you do get a sewer guard warranty. That gives you $2,000 per occurrence of coverage. Say the house was empty and there hasn't been any solids going through, or there's a tree root or some type of intrusion or separation, it would be covered up to $2,000 under sewer guard.
Okay. And I see on part of the thing you got convenient online quotes and scheduling.
Yes. So we do have a 24-hour answering service. It is a live person. They can schedule 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also go to our website and schedule 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You've got somebody that schedules your appointments that's bilingual, English and Spanish.
Yes.
Correct. That's an advantage in itself, in the Houston market. And then you also got a 200% guarantee.
200% guarantee.
And how does that work?
So if the buyer comes to the inspection and they're not 200% satisfied within 24 hours, if they let us know, we will not only refund the inspection fee, we will pay up to what they paid us for another inspector to come out.
Oh, that's actually real good. That's good value as well. And what's the free recall check?
Free recall check, we take the model numbers and serial numbers down of all the appliances that stay with the home. We run it through a national database to make sure that none of those appliances have any recalls. Most recalls are fire hazards. This should not be any part of a negotiation, because the recall check, when you take ownership of the home, you call the manufacturer and they either send out someone to fix the recall, and if they can't fix the recall, then they will give you a check to replace the appliance.
That's an addition. That definitely is an interesting point. I had my car. It's got a recall, and I went there the other day to get it serviced, and they haven't even got the part, which I found most frustrating. There's a recall on the property. Wouldn't you think that you've got that?
For
You know,
sure.
and the reason why it should be recalled is because it was a potential fire hazard. So it's interesting that you say that. So tell me, how if somebody makes an appointment with you for an inspection, how long does it take from the point of order to the point of the inspection? How quickly can you normally get to the point where you do the inspection?
Well, since we have 9 inspectors, we can usually get to you within a day or 2.
That day.
And sometimes, if you call early enough in the morning, we can get to it the same day.
And how long does it take to get the inspection? And then is that sent to the buyer, or is that sent to the agent, or is that their choice? Or
It's always the buyer's choice because they're the one that's hiring us. We do have an agreement that the buyer has to sign that gives us permission to release it to their agent.
Okay, that's good. And then if the buyer wants to attend the inspection, how do you deal with that?
That's perfectly fine. Right now with COVID and different things, if the homeowner is going to be there, then we request they come toward the end of the inspection, say the last 30 minutes.
So what do you do? Do you call the buyer? How do you do that?
We usually talk to the buyer. Once we get everything scheduled through the agent or through showing time, we let them know, hey, the home is occupied and the seller requests that we wear masks, shoes covered, and if you can come toward the end of the inspection, the last 30 minutes to go
Absolutely.
over the report.
Now, I've got 2 pet peeves with inspectors.
Oh,
I've got my opinions, and I'm going to touch base with you on that. The first thing is, some inspectors do not go on the roof, which I just can't understand, because as we all know, every property in Texas is purchased as is. So some agents have got this idea that because it's as is means that we're not going to negotiate. Well, to be perfectly honest, if I'm representing a buyer, I'm going to go in and negotiate on the 4 points of a contract, which is at the start of the contract, right? The offer part, during the inspection, during the appraisal, and even if it comes to it at the table. Them are the points you can negotiate as an agent. Some agents don't even realise that's the case because it's as is. So I can't understand why some people even waive the inspection, which we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Sure.
But I want as much information as I can as a buyer's agent, and yet you pay for an inspection, and I expect it to be a full inspection, and they don't go on the roof. Does your company go on the roof?
I'll let Chris answer that since he's the inspector.
So most of the time we do get on the roof if it's accessible. Most of our guys carry like a 21-foot ladder, which 99% of the houses you can get on with that. Every now and then, it's a 3-story house we can't get on. We do, if you want those inspected, we can fly drones on those. Not all the inspectors have drone license, but we do have several that do, so we can get to them.
So how can you evaluate a roof with a drone?
Drone actually works very well. You can get up there and see basically anything that you can see while you're on the roof. The only disadvantage of drone inspection is probably if there's soft spots and you're not on the roof, you can't feel that. A lot of the roofs nowadays are so steep that you're not going to be able to see that anyway because you can't get on those steep slopes. But we can see all the ridges, which are where most of the problems occur, and any missing shingles, nails that are exposed, things like that.
Can you evaluate with a drone? Can you evaluate how much life is left on the roof?
Yes, you can, because you can actually, once you take a drone picture, you can zoom in on that roof and you can see the granular and everything. I mean, it's like you're on the roof.
So you could estimate roughly how long is left on there?
Oh, yeah. I can usually estimate a roof when I'm on it for within 2 or 3 years, and the drone's about the same.
I mean, I can understand why it's a drone if it's a 3-story unit, but some guys, even if it's a 1-story home, they will not get on the roof.
Right.
But it's so frustrating as an agent because I want as much as I can to give value to my client, and your client is the buyer as well, and yet they won't go on the roof. Yeah. And it's frustrating. So if they go on the roof, do you think that's the best way to inspect the roof, or do you think the drone is the new way to inspect the roof? I can understand why you don't want the roof if it's 3 stories tall.
Yeah. There are certain cases when you get on a roof, and if it's real steep and the granular's loose, it's not safe to walk it. Or if it's raining and it's got a lot of moss on it, you will slide down that roof. So that in that case, the drone is a very good
Okay. Well, I've got to tell you a funny story. There was a client, actually it wasn't my client, it was one of the agents in the office, didn't use an inspector, decided to get their brother to inspect a property, who's a contractor, walks on a roof and puts their foot through the roof. So I think that's a mistake sometimes that people make, is they use a contractor who's not an inspector, and then, things like that, and it can get a little bit embarrassing. And then, of course, the seller's upset and you're trying to negotiate with somebody. So, yeah, but as I said, that's one of my pet peeves. So basically, you're saying that nothing replaces to actually get on the roof and walk on the roof, but you just got to be careful.
That is the best way. I have been on roofs and then go in the attic later and then find out that there's a big hole that was cut out and they just put a little piece of sheet metal over to put the shingles on. That's kind of scary because, you might not see that if you're on the roof.
And roughly, how long does it take to do an inspection?
We usually look at about an hour per 1,000 square foot. Usually about a 2-hour minimum, even if it's a smaller place, unless it's a little condo that you're not really inspecting much outside, just the outside area.
And how about what type of inspections do you do?
We do residential and some commercial. We're not doing the big commercial buildings or anything like that, but a lot of our clients do. They buy investment properties, townhouses, old apartment type buildings and stuff like that. And we do a lot of that.
Okay. And what was very interesting when I spoke to Ricky yesterday, to sort of discuss some of the issues we were going to talk about today, you were saying you actually have a sewer camera, so you can...
Yes, we do. We have 4 sewer cameras, actually.
So we can actually go into the sewer lines, inspect those, and we find very, very high percentage of the ones we do have some type of problem on it.
What, broken pipes are we talking about? Or what's common problems for the sewer?
Either pipes that are separating a little bit, not straight together. They actually pull apart a little bit. Roots coming into the system, bellies, which is basically where it holds water, so it's not flowing properly. Mm-hmm. Those places cause clogs and stuff like that. If they're it's kind of like I had at my house when I bought my house 30 years ago. I was in the house. I didn't know much about home inspections at the time. I did have a home inspection, but they didn't see it, of course, because they didn't go down the sewers. But I had a pipe separate a little bit, and I noticed a little sinkhole in the backyard, and I did not knowing it. I just started throwing all my stuff from doing the yard in that little hole, and eventually it decided to stop. I had to dig down 8 feet to get to it. So it's very important, and when you do a sewer cam inspection, we also give you a year warranty on that versus a 3-month.
Interesting. And then also you offer mold inspections.
Yes.
Yes, Chris has been licensed mold tech in 2014, and then now in 2016 he became a mold assessment consultant.
Okay, and with the lab tests that you do on that, how long does it take for you to kick their mold test back?
If it's done Monday through Thursday, we get next day.
That's really quick. We had a mold inspection about 3 months ago that we did for a property, and it took 10 days for the labs to get back.
Wow.
Which was just far too much, because if you have more than 100 square feet of linear square footage in the state of Texas, then you've got to get it's got to be remediated by a professional company and follow guidelines by the state of Texas. And it really was a headache. So in that meantime, because we found out that there was a mold problem, they suspected a mold problem, we had to move out everybody to a hotel and house them. And it got, very expensive. And the quicker you can do this, and obviously the less stress you have for the people in the unit, and the quicker we can get on and get this done.
Right.
It's a pretty complicated process to follow. So, we've had a general input on what you do, what type of inspections you've done. Just just tell me what makes an inspector worth having. And I'll tell you one of my biggest gripes that I have with, some agents that really aren't in the business, in my opinion, for the right reasons. So tell me what you think.
Well, the value of a home inspection or having a home inspector come out is that we are there working for the buyer.
Correct.
It doesn't matter who refers us. We have a code of ethics, just like the realtor does, to serve that client.
And you're monitored by the Texas Real Estate Commission.
Yes, and we're monitored by TREC. We at First Rate Inspections believe that everybody deserves a home to live their own American dream in.
That's it, living the dream.
Yep. And we feel like every home should be safe, sound, and secure. And with a home inspection, we do, health and safety, first. If something's not safe in the home, then we have to report it. A home inspection, we kind of come in for the 2.5 or 3 hours that we're there and tell the story of how the home has been taken care of behind the scenes in the attic. The plumbing, the electrical, the foundation, the roof, the grading, the drainage, pretty much everything like that. The home tells the story, and a lot of agents say, you killed my deal. No, not really. The home and the home maintenance killed the deal. So we come in as the buyer's advocate.
Right.
To make sure that they're living in a home that's safe and secure for their family.
Absolutely. Now, I've heard agents in the past make this comment. There has been agents in the past that we've actually let go as soon as I hear this comment, which is, I don't want to order an inspection because the inspector's just going to ruin my deal. And what upsets me so much about that is I know there's agents out there that do that. What also frustrates me is the Texas Real Estate Commission. Basically, one of the rules that they say is we have to always advise the client, multiple inspectors, to pick an inspector. So we're not steering them, and basically offer them, and say the Texas Real Estate Commission recommend that you have the property inspected.
Right.
And, when I hear agents that say, well, the inspectors always seem to ruin my deal. No, they didn't ruin your deal, like you said. What basically it is they're buying a bad house.
Right.
And you're there, like you said, to protect the buyer. So at the end of the day, from a point of view as me, the agent, representing my client, I would rather them not buy that house, even if it's the 20th house that we've looked at. I would rather not buy the house than buy a problem, because this is one of the biggest purchases that they are going to make.
Yes.
It's a way how their family can get equity, start to live the American dream, and I personally feel very passionate about that. And the best way for me as an agent to generate business is with referrals.
Yes.
So the better deal that I can get for my clients, hopefully, the more referrals I'm going to get, because a good agent will bring a team of people in, be inspectors, title companies, attorneys, if you have to give that little bit of advice. I don't know all the answers, and I've been in the business 25 years. I come to work and I learn every day.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest points with these agents. They think they have to be the expert, but they don't. It's just a case of bringing good people around me, and I want to be in a position where I'm getting future referrals to build my business. But at the same time, if that's not the house for that buyer, I don't want them to buy the house. Because at that point, going back to your point, Chris, you didn't get an inspection done when you bought your house, or you didn't do the sewer, and what happened? You had a problem.
I did. And I didn't know any better.
Right. So, you're buying a house that's $300,000, and sometimes in Houston, it's difficult to find a house for $300,000 these days with the position that we're in, and then people won't spend, I don't know, $500 on an inspection or whatever it costs them, and it's very difficult. And agents at times really need to get it into their skulls. I don't understand it because I want my buyer to feel great about what I do. My father had a great expression once: if it smells like cheese, it's cheese. And I think it's so important. So also was interesting was you spoke to me earlier on when you were saying about the 4 points of an inspection. Would you just like to go through that? So the 4 points of an inspection are?
Well, the roof, of course, the HVAC, AC, the foundation, and plumbing and electrical. So, just the basic, functionality of a home.
Well, one of my comments with that is, out of all of them, I think the most important part is the plumbing. Because plumbing problems can go extensively wrong.
And cause the house to be very, very unhealthy.
Absolutely. And, living in Houston like we do, with the humidity and with different problems we've had with flooding in the past, we do HOA management, and we've got galvanized plumbing, which is a huge problem in Houston because after a time it starts to pit and leak. So I think it's important that once in a while that you do that. So the 4 points are, as you said, the roof, the HVAC, the foundation, and the plumbing. And then also you mentioned about the home warranty. It's important that the agent gets a home warranty.
Well, usually the sellers will pay for the home warranty. I know with the market, the way it is, a lot of the sellers aren't paying for the home warranty. If you do the home inspection with first-rate inspections, it takes your home warranty from 12 months to 18 months.
So you extend that home warranty?
The home warranty company does, yes.
How does that work?
Well, we have a relationship with a home warranty company. Our home warranty is just a little bit different. They cover a lot of different things like springs and garage doors. They cover refrigerators. They do a maintenance on your AC unit.
You can use your own contractors.
Yes, you can use your own contractors. Now, they will pay what they would, the aggregate for the companies that they have contracts with. So you would pay a little bit, more money, but you have someone that love, and trust doing the service to your home, and not just some.
Do you have to use a specific home warranty company, or is it any home warranty company?
It's a specific home warranty, and it's residential warranty services.
Okay. Just so that's clear. And then, can you explain? A lot of agents make a mistake when they say, well, this needs repairing, and then the seller's agent will basically, also the listing agent will basically say, well, we'll give you a home warranty, and then if it ever goes wrong, it's covered. But that isn't the case. That is not true.
That is not true.
So if you would just like to clarify.
Yes, I would love to. So a home warranty is to fix future problems, not problems that are on an inspection report. Most of the time, your home warranty company will ask you for the report. If it is listed on the report, the home warranty company will deny it.
Okay.
Because that is in the past. It was an issue when you did your inspection and you knew about it. Now, anything that's on the home inspection report, if you have receipts showing that that has been repaired, which you should get from the sellers all the time to protect your buyer, if you send those into the home warranty company, then it's covered.
Okay, so the rules of the road is it needs to be repaired once after closing.
Or before closing.
Or before closing, okay. And that's so important for agents to understand that, because I've been involved at times when agents and listing agents as well, just get a home warranty and then it'll be covered. And that's not true.
No.
And it really isn't true. And that's why I'll always go back to agents need to be educated, which I think a lot of companies don't educate their agents enough. They don't share information with them. But it's very, very important. I know at Century 21, education is top of the line, teamwork is top of the line. We just have a different philosophy, especially for new agents. They need all the help they can get.
Absolutely.
And in all fairness, new agents, I consider really, really high up because they just soak that information in. And as long as they're willing to learn, then they come through the tunnel, and they're very educated agents, and they do when they start to produce, that's very gratifying for me as the owner of Century 21 Olympian. So as I said, it's very important to me. In this market, the agents are showing a lot of houses.
Yes.
Because of the multiple offer situation that we're in. I don't think personally that this is a temporary situation. I think we have an inventory problem. I think we're down on affordable housing. I think something needs to be done to try and provide affordable housing, and how you go about that, I don't know. I have no idea on that, to be perfectly honest. And I really wouldn't want to serve or solve that problem.
No.
But somehow we need to find something, to do that. But the point that I'm trying to drive home here is as many houses as we show to clients that want to buy the house, how do you cost up an inspection? You basically do it by square feet? I mean, what's...
Square footage and age. So if it's an older home, it is going to cost a little bit more to fix because there's galvanized pipe, like you said. There's the systems are older in a home. So it does take more time for the inspector to inspect an older home versus, a 10 or 15-year-old home. But like Chris said earlier, it's usually by square footage and by age. And also, if there's a termite inspection that needs to be done, if there's a pool or a spa, or if there's a sprinkler system.
And first-rate home inspections, they obviously do termite inspections.
Yes.
Okay. And let's sort of move on to swimming pools in Texas. Okay. One of the points that I find very frustrating as well as an agent is in Texas. Since we've had an insurance company, when we go through the purchasing process and we get to the point of reviewing the seller's disclosure, and then we go to get a quote for our buyers, not just us, but through partners and other insurance companies that we work with, and then we work up the CLU report.
Right.
And on the CLU report, we can see what claims have been made to a property, within quite a bit of time. Then when we look at the seller's disclosure, there's no disclosure for when they've made a claim. Well, if they've made a claim, they've obviously got a problem. Not all real estate companies have that ability.
Right.
But in your experience, a good agent should obviously provide the seller's disclosure to you, correct?
It would be helpful. Then I can forward it on to the inspector.
Okay.
So they know if there's been, they can tell if they've been, there has been foundation issues and had foundation work.
Well, just one of the points.
But how old is the roof? These are things that the buyer's going to ask,
Okay. One of the things we always teach, give that seller's disclosure to, the inspector.
Right.
Because it gives you some sort of history. And it really shows to me how much integrity sometimes the seller's got. Now, people forget, in all fairness.
Right.
So there's a part of that. But relation to Texas pools is, are you able to check for cracked pools?
I'll let Chris explain pools since he's our
Yeah,
lead
first of all,
inspector.
on disclosures, I'll tell you, we hardly ever get a disclosure, even though we ask for it on every inspection.
Well, why do you think that is?
I don't think they think it's important for us to know. It's like, sometimes I think it's like they think we're the enemy. Sometimes it's like, we're there to help you. Let us know everything you know. That way we can help you. But they want to see if we can find it out on our own. So I guess that's what it is more than anything. And we do notice most of the stuff because, I mean, it's like pools, for instance. We go through and we look at a pool. And I tell my clients, I said, if there's anything you want to inspect, it's a pool, because that's where most of the problems are. 9 times out of 10, when I do a pool, something major is wrong. Sorry. So when I'm doing pools, a lot of times right now, the heaters are out. I've done 4 pools this week, and 3 of the heaters weren't working. And that's a $3,500, $4,500 ticket. So it's very important. Cracks in pools, usually very minor. When a pool is lifting or something like that, I see a few every now and then, but not something that happens every day. It's more leaks, pumps not working, grinding, making loud sounds, things like that. But the heater's probably the number one major issue.
With a pool?
With a pool.
Would that be from the freeze?
During the freeze, a lot of these, they don't even disclose this, or sometimes they disclose it, I guess, to the agents, but we never know about it, or the clients. But I've done, out of those 4 inspections, 3 of the heaters were down because of the freeze, because they can't get parts for them. 2 of them knew about it. 1 didn't have any idea. So.
Okay, and as from an agent standpoint, I also want to say that if a buyer doesn't want an inspection, and we're going to talk about that now, you know, it's so important that the agent gets that documentation to say that they waive the inspection. I can never understand, even in this market, why a buyer wants to waive the inspection. Because, 1, it's a negotiating tool. So we recently, to let you know, there was an agent in our office. The property was listed at $220,000. They had to offer over list price for the property for $225,000 with $3,000 in seller contribution. They did the inspection. The inspector came back and said, there's a problem with the roof. They got a reduction for that, and they kept the $3,000 contribution. So realistically, the $225,000 offer, less $3,000 contribution, the net offer was $222,000. They ended up getting $5,000 because of the inspection, which cost them $600.
Right.
So now they've got it for $217,000. Because the roof was going to cost them about $10,000, so they got a $5,000 contribution from the seller. Then the appraisal came in, and the appraisal didn't come in, even at $217,000.
Yeah.
So then we negotiated it down, and we ended getting the deal for $215,000. You know, so it was a multiple offer situation, and this is why I say it's so important to offer your clients value. Because if not, they will go to Zillow, and they will go to, because it's a click of a button away. But I think it's so important that agents become, and I don't think all of them are, but agents, there are, like any industry, you get good and you get bad. But I think it's so important that agents are educated, and educated correctly, because
Absolutely.
you know there's so many different ways you can get educated now, but it really isn't good information.
Absolutely.
So I do think it's important that agents are educated properly and they really understand how to negotiate. But what's important about what you said is it really is important that an inspection is done, because if an inspection costs you $600 and yet we negotiated $5,000.
Right.
So it sort of pays for itself. So what's your opinion about people waiving inspections?
Well, it's my fear that if people are waiving inspections, it's going to come back to bite somebody later on. Because one, if that client comes and, moves into the home and it has foundation issues and it needs a roof and, it has all of these major issues, and the agent said, well, yeah, we can waive the home inspection.
And all they're doing is basically purchasing a future problem.
Correct. What is that seller hiding that they said, nope, if you waive the inspection, you got the deal? What is that seller hiding that they know about?
Absolutely.
And I feel like people should, I'm sure there's a form out there and, that the buyer's agent can have them sign, saying I'm waiving the home inspection. But does that really protect the agent and the broker?
Well, one of the things I want to bring up during this conversation is in Texas we have humidity, we have floods. We recently had an event, where I was praying for Louisiana, to be perfectly honest, in parts of Texas, because they had 3 feet of water. And it's not necessarily, you can get floods now even if you're not in a floodplain or a floodway. And yet, with multiple floods over here, people are waiving inspections and you really don't know what's behind that sheetrock.
Right.
So what's your opinion on that with mold and different things? I mean, what's your worst experience that you've found with a house?
I'll let Chris answer that. I'm not the home inspector. I'm the person behind the scenes.
I've found things in brand new homes where a brand new home, nobody noticed this. They've been through the house many times, but every tile in the house was cracked. And they ended up having to rip out all the tile in about a 3,000 square foot house. And think about moving in. If you moved into that house, you're going to have to take everything out of the house, redo all the floors, be out for a period of time, then move back in. And
that's a brand new house?
That was a brand new house.
Was that with a national builder?
Yes, it was. And it was amazing because it's like nobody saw it, but it's little tiny fractures throughout all the flooring. So things like that. I've done many new houses, 3-4 years old. We did one the other day and had no insulation in it after 4 years of being lived in.
Now, just explain to us, because obviously I know that with a new home, there's a specific type of inspection that you have, for new homes. And it's a little bit different than a regular inspection. And sometimes it's difficult to persuade a buyer, educate a buyer on why they should get a new home inspection. Yeah. So would you like to just go through how a new home inspection works?
Sure. There's several inspections you can do. They do some homes they want to do before they pour the slab. A lot of times we don't have that opportunity because of the fact that the slabs are already done. They're in process of building a house when they look at it. But we can do pre-drywall inspections, which I find is very, very important, because when we do pre-drywall inspections, that builder knows you're going to come back and look at it later. So they're a lot more careful and they do a lot better job of it. If you have a home that the superintendent has been really good, then it's probably going to be a pretty good inspection on it. If they've changed your guys running the show, superintendents, if they've changed several superintendents, you know it needs an inspection because they're having difficulties with that builder. Yeah. So that's one of the big things that I noticed. But the final inspection is also very important. I've been in the houses where they just forget to do things on the roof.
So on a new home inspection, how many times do you visit the property?
Usually we do most of them as 2 inspections. We go do the pre-drywall and the final. I don't do the pre-pour right now because of the fact that most of the time you have to be there when they pour, and it's the scheduling issues a lot of times because you can't go anytime, because if you go anytime before, things can happen when they pour, and if you're not there when they pour, then things can get knocked off, have plumbing issues and so forth.
Yeah, we recently had an agent that followed your protocol. They did for a brand new home. They did a new home inspection, and the inspector came back and said, "You shouldn't buy this house." Literally, that was the words that he said. And the reason what he said was because the grading at the house was actually backing down to the house, and the agent, one of our most experienced agents, basically said, "Well, I appreciate you telling me." So our agent actually went. This is a national home builder. Went to the national home builder and basically said the grading is wrong, and they got very upset about it. And then through a little bit of education that we did with different systems that we had, we found out that 2 of the houses locally on that street had flooded.
Right.
And that's a brand new house built in 2021.
I kind of had a situation with that with Ricky's old job. We went to inspect his building, and this was before I even had my license. I kind of was learning about it, but I kind of walked through it and everything, and I said, "You're going to have drainage issues." And he said, "Okay, whatever." It's like, didn't really think about it. Well, later on, after he had the building put up and everything, within a few months, he flooded. And, just the knowledge that we have from doing home inspections can definitely help those buyers a lot.
Well, that's good. And a lot of new home buyers also look at it that, we get a 12-month home warranty with the builder. If there's a problem, we can always ask the builder to come back. But one of the problems that I have as an agent is it's not a TREC contract. The builders get their attorneys to write the contract.
Right.
So the buyer does not have the normal protections that they sometimes have. So one of the reasons what they should really do is to get that new home inspection, correct?
Correct. One of the things I always tell my clients, I said, if you don't get the inspection before you sign that paperwork, it's the warranty that they're doing. They send it through a warranty process, and you may or may not get it fixed, and it may be, take you a month or 2 to hassle with them to get it done. Whereas before, they want to fix everything to get that paperwork signed. So they're going to do whatever they can to get that paperwork signed. They're willing to fix a lot of things. So I always tell, don't waive the normal inspection and do the 11-month warranty. Get that first initial inspection. Then that 11-month warranty is not near as important unless you see something that really bothers you. And then you can do the 11-month.
Right.
Much more important.
And I especially have experienced that in the past with, some of my clients because, as I said, it's the builder's contract in the builder's favor. A lot of people do not understand, which they really should. Buyers that are buying new homes, I think, should be more cautious because the salespeople in the sales offices are inactive agents. They're employees. They work for the builder. They've got to meet quotas. They've got to sell, so they've got that corporate pressure. And I really think it's important to use a very educated agent. I've negotiated contracts on new home builders because things have been done properly with inspections and you can negotiate with a new home builder if you know what the ammunition is and you can really do it in an experienced and professional manner.
Yeah. One of the things you got to think about too is, yes, they do inspections along the way, but those inspectors work for that builder. They get paid by that builder. So it's kind of like...
He's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, he has conflict of interest. He really does. And we're working for the buyer, so it's different.
Absolutely. Let's sort of move on a little bit now. Let's talk about septic systems because we have an office in Lake Jackson. In Brazoria, we have an awful lot of septic issues and septic and aerobic systems. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of rules where basically now, a septic system can't be within 100 feet of the houses. Correct, Ricky? Can you just go through the rules with septic systems? A lot of agents in Houston aren't familiar with septic systems.
Right. A well and a septic have to be at least 100 feet apart because you don't want your septic,
water to get into your well, drinking water. So that's very important. You also a conventional system, which is just the tank that goes down in there, everything dumps into the tank, settles out, and then the water goes into a feed line. The problem with those right now is they're older systems. They're having difficulty, problems with the tanks and so forth. And if it's not a minor fix, they have to replace the system. They're not allowed to do certain things to them. So aerobic system has to be put in, and that can be $7,000, $11,000, maybe even $20,000, depending on the size of the house.
And then how is that maintained? I mean, if I was a seller looking at selling my house, what, as a buyer's agent, what should I look for?
Okay.
With any problems with the septic system? Is there any questions I should ask about, well, how often have you maintained it? Is it a yearly event? Is it a treatment? Is it a treatment every 2 to 3 months? I mean, what questions should I ask as an agent?
Okay. For instance, on a conventional system with a tank, they usually don't have to be inspected. So how often have you pumped it? When's the last time you pumped the septic? Usually they have to pump them about every 4 to 5 years if it's being used properly. If they're dumping a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be dumping down the system, it can be every year or two. So that makes a lot of difference as to how the homeowners have actually dealt with the system. On a aerobic system, it's supposed to be inspected every quarter. So.
And how long does how long should a septic system last for?
They should last for years and years if they're maintained
So
properly.
if you say years and years, 20 years, 30 years?
Probably 15, 20, 30 years. Just depends, like I said, how they're kept up. The problem with a lot of systems, as far as even though they're supposed to be done quarterly, a lot of them aren't. A lot of the inspectors that inspect them don't, or the quarterly maintenance systems, they don't do them right.
Okay, so with a septic
type
system, is that a question we should ask as agents? How often have you maintained that septic system? Have you maintained it every 3 months? What's required every 3 months?
They come out, they test the system, make sure all the alarms are working, make sure the quality of the waters, everything is functional in the system, your pumps and different things. Your tanks are looked at every quarter, make sure there's certain levels that they go through according to how many times.
Are records supposed to be kept?
Yes.
As a seller, so the seller's supposed to keep a record that they have maintained this every 3 months?
Yeah, there are actually tags on the system that tells you every time they maintenance it.
Okay, and is this a particular company? Are these are septic companies that come out
Septic
and
companies,
maintain?
yes. But like I said, a lot of times they do drive-bys. They just come in, sign the thing, go out. They don't really do a good inspection. So it's recommended, we always recommend our clients go have a septic system inspection, which is the full inspection, especially on a transfer of a house, because you never know who's doing that inspection and what the quality was.
Do you think that a good buyer's agent would find out who the septic maintenance system is and ask them for a record?
Yes.
To see how.
You definitely want to do that. And that gives that whoever's inspecting it, as long as you know who it is, has some liability in that, because they're saying it's in good shape and so forth. So if you're having issues with it, you can go back to them. But it's having your own inspection, full inspection on it, tells you a lot more information, and it'll tell you where the lines are set, if the system's big enough. I've had an inspection happen on one of our properties, and our inspector said it wasn't going to work because they did an addition to the house and added a master bedroom and bath to it. And when an agent was actually selling the house, that owned the house, said, "Oh no, that system's fine. We've had no problems with it. Let me have my inspector come out and look at it." So they had their inspector come out and look at it and say, "Oh yeah, it's fine." Well, the client moved in 2 weeks later, it was backing up, and it didn't work. So he calls us, and it's like, "Well, our inspector said it wasn't going to work." And he said, "Yeah, but the agent that owned the home said, oh, just use my inspector." And he come out there and looked at it and said it was okay. I said, "Well, it's kind of your problem now because you accepted that, but it happens. So very important to get your own and make sure that you know who it is.
Right.
They do a quality inspection.
Absolutely. And we've had a lot of problems with different contracts with septic systems down, in Brazoria. What are the areas that you feel are prevalent to that have got septics and septic problems? I mean, we have quite a bit down in Brazoria where the Lake Jackson office is. What other areas do you feel?
I don't know that there's a particular area that I've found that has more problems than others, but I'm thinking we don't do a whole lot of work in Brazoria right now. But one of the things about that is depends on the water levels. If there's a high water table, then you'll have problems because it doesn't have a place to drain off to.
Right. How about Montgomery and up them areas?
Montgomery, we do a lot of septics. We do a lot of septics in there, but we don't have a lot of problems. It's more sand. So it does drain fairly well.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting point. And then also with certain types of loan, with certain types of loans, is well water a problem, or what do you recommend with water wells in relation to FHA and VA?
FHA requires water testing, so we do water testing where we take samples of the water. One of the things about water testing, you have to be very careful because it needs to be run before and then sit for 6 hours at least, between 6 and 18 hours before you test it. So you can test for lead and nitrates and bacteria.
So you're going to work in the morning, you do your normal stuff, you brush your teeth, you have a shower, whatever you do, and then you go to work. First-rate inspections come in to do the inspection, and then you've got to let that water sit there for 6 hours?
It's got to sit for 6 hours after they finish running it. So we really need to do probably an afternoon inspection, come in and do the water testing before we run everything.
Okay, and that's in VA and FHA, or just FHA?
Yes, both.
Okay, how long does it take for the lab tests?
3 days.
3 days for the lab tests?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that the agents need to be careful of and aware of, because obviously if you've got a 10-day inspection period, yes, that could be a problem. This is why it's important again to get a knowledgeable agent.
Right, and we have to make sure that it gets to the lab within 24 hours cold, so it has to be on ice.
Absolutely. Okay, and obviously if it's a VA, then a termite inspection is mandatory. So you do the water test, you do the termite inspection, then you do the home inspection. Is there any other inspections that you would recommend with a VA or an FHA loan?
Not anything particular on a VA. Just what you want to be careful from if it's an older home, then sewer inspection, sewer scope is very important. Just because, especially out in the country where there's a lot of trees and roots and different things like that, can have a lot of movement.
One of the things that we do at HOA management, and we're managing a property, it's got two huge problems. One is galvanized pipes, which is a huge problem.
It is.
And the other thing that we've got is there is a total of 34 units at this particular HOA that we manage. And there are broken sewer pipes because of trees. And the bid that we've just got, the lowest bid we've just got to replace the sewage pipes is nearly $400,000.
Yeah.
So it really has been a problem because the tunneling is so expensive.
Right. So with a sewer, just in a single family home, if you have a sewer problem, it usually starts out at about $3,500. So that $200 inspection, when we do the inspection, is well worth it.
Yeah.
If we do it after it's $400, I believe, $395.
Absolutely. Okay. And so first-rate inspections, you can schedule it 24/7.
Yes, sir.
And we've spoke about the 200% guarantee. Tell us a little bit what your feelings are with, and I've got to ask you this because I always come back to this. I feel that a lot of agents don't fully understand the importance of mold inspections and doing full inspections, and I think they should educate their their buyers to do a full inspection, and all the other good stuff that come with that. Because in Houston, we definitely have a humidity problem. We recently had a big event, which was, the big old Houston freeze. What's your experience with the Houston freeze?
Houston freeze is what I tell all my clients. A couple things. One is with Harvey, we had a lot of flooding. We've had tax day flooding. We had another flood before that. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Tax day Harvey. And there was another one before that. But if a house has been flooded, whether it's been from rising water or flooded because of the pipes busting, I always tell people, find out if they did a mold inspection. If they haven't, I recommend it. A lot of these houses were cleaned up and repaired, but they didn't do it properly. A lot of them sprayed Clorox bleach on mold. That does not kill mold. It actually makes it grow. A lot of people don't know that. So if you walked into Home Depot right after Harvey or Lowe's, they had stacks of Clorox out there. And they didn't know any better. They thought that was the way to go. So about 2 weeks later, you start seeing moldicides out there. So a lot of people use, Clorox at first, or one of those brands of chlorine, Clorox, and it actually made the problem worse. And so they had to come back and do that. So all these tests, when we asked people if they clean their home, how did you clean it? That was one of the big things. So all these houses that did flood and they put things back real quickly, didn't get dried out quick enough. They had issues with mold. Yeah. So I always recommend testing.
One of the problems that we had when we had the big old Houston freeze was it was like a double-edged sword, because we had the Houston freeze, we had leaks. So we have leaks, and then it was a problem getting plumbers, because plumbers were completely overwhelmed. And then when we could get a plumber out there, was only doing emergency calls only, which is a little bit ironic, because you get a plumbing leak and it's an emergency. And then all the plumbing supplies ran out. Some of the plumbing repairs that we had a 4-week to 6-week wait. On one property, we had 8 plumbing companies that we manage. It's a 224 unit property, and and the plumbers were coming out doing the work and then saying we can't get the parts anymore. So they was band-aiding the problem. And in the meantime, you've got a possible mold problem. And then, so we had walls that were open. We had sheetrock that was open until the adjusters could come out. And it was just one problem after another, And it was so frustrating, because we're trying to give value to people. And I do think it's important that you have a very good team around you. I'm glad to say that because of some of the business that we give to some plumbing companies, they was putting us a little bit higher, above the list. But we had 8 plumbing companies at one property, and we were very concerned about the mold. And the adjuster just came in on one of the properties, and I'm glad to say that we got some help with the insurance, but it doesn't cover all the insurance. But that's one of the problems that I want to sort of come back to, why it's important to get an inspection and get all the bells and whistles on the inspection, because in Houston and this area, we're going to get flooding. I do think we're going to get more flooding. I don't know what your feelings are, but I do think we'll get more flooding, because FEMA have got this 100-year floodplain, that even if it's a 100-year floodplain, some of these areas have froze more than once.
Right. I always look. We're looking at a property the other day, and it's in a 500-year floodplain, but it's been flooded twice. So
I didn't know you could get a 250-year floodplain. But, okay.
500.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, time to do 250. Okay. So, with Houston, with the humidity, I think it's so important that always people forget that more. Tell us about your CE classes. You offer CE classes?
Yes, we're doing a lot of CE classes. We do one every Wednesday. We're doing different classes. We're letting people sign up for them, and we're doing like home inspection classes, mold classes. We do lead, doing, let's see, which other ones?
Grow houses.
Grow houses. People are really like that class a lot with all this stuff going
Going
on.
green is another one.
Yeah.
We have a future sewer camera class in the makings.
Can buyers or investors do these classes? Is that something you offer?
Sure.
Sure. Anybody can join the CE classes.
Because I do think there is a problem with people flipping houses. When people flip houses, they take shortcuts because obviously they want to, make a buck at the end of the day. And I do think it's important that when people buy a flip house, that all the due diligence is done, the inspections and such like.
Those are the most important to get inspected because inspectors call them lipstick on a pig.
No, really, that's a nice. That's a good
They've made it
experience.
really pretty, but they didn't do anything to the bones, the insides of the home, the AC, the roof, the heating.
And you have some flippers that are very, very good.
Yes.
And then some of them that just want to get by.
We have one guy in the office that flips houses, and I've got to tell you, he does an excellent job. I actually bought a house from him. I was so impressed with it. Never ever had a problem. But as always in every business, you do get people that they take shortcuts. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest mistakes that I find is with people that flip houses. They get their brother, who's a contractor, to do the inspection because we just want to know what it costs, and I think that's a huge problem. There's a difference when you get a licensed inspection company like yourself. What's your views on that?
Well, it's kind of like you see all these shows on HGTV, and everybody thinks they're a flipper now. So, it's really interesting. There's a lot of people, like I said, they want to get into the business. So if you use an inspector, it definitely helps them a lot because now they know that plumbing, that galvanized pipe really should be changed while they have the drywall down, while they're redoing the bathrooms and so forth. Because I hate to sit here and do an inspection on a flip property and tell these people, well, really you need to rip out this, and this because you got to change this galvanized pipe that's already starting to leak and they did a repair on it.
On the other side of the coin, if somebody is a flipper and they're flipping a property, I think it's very important that they get the buyer, they even make it mandatory and a condition of the offer that they get a buyer to get an inspection on that property. Because at the same time, if you think about it, by doing that, it actually protects the investor from future problems. Whenever we have a property in that situation, we actually make it mandatory to get an inspection on the property.
I think that's an excellent idea. And there are some investors that do flips that hire us to do inspections. So they can make sure they know what the problems are and that they get those fixed so they don't end up with those problems later.
Right, and so the next point I want to bring up, which was interesting when I met you both downstairs at our corporate office, and we were talking about my passion for Zillow and Realtor.com. I don't think they've offered anything to the industry. I think they've ruined the real estate business. I don't think they offer any value to any client out there that wants to buy a house, because to me, it's like going to a doctor, buying a do-it-yourself book, and basically cutting yourself open. I do think an experienced real estate agent that does their job properly and professionally and has that experience that can negotiate. I think the most important part that an agent does is know how to negotiate and have a strategy to put the buyer's offer on paper and present it to the seller. And I don't think that is offered anywhere on Zillow or Realtor.com. But you mentioned to me downstairs in the main office that Zillow are now hiring inspectors for their flip properties. What's your feeling on that?
Well, we have a friend that was doing inspections for Zillow, you know, he did well with it, you know, but when they were done with him, they were done.
Well,
You know?
welcome to corporate America. That's
So,
what.
you know, I'm glad that they at least hired an inspector to look at the property. You know, but, you know, Zillow had agents paying them for leads. Well, now they have their own agents, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, I'm sure they'll have their own inspectors soon too.
So you think they're trying to take over the industry. That's really what they're trying to do. They're trying to do away with the agent. But a lot of the clients don't understand the true value of an agent. I'm a big believer in, you know, there are agents out there that put a sign in the yard and put it in the local MLS and say they're doing they're offering value to the client, but that really isn't what a good agent does. But going back to Zillow, do you feel Zillow will make a move to get into the inspection side of the business?
Well,
To me, it sounds like a conflict of interest.
they made a move to get into the real estate side, so of selling and buying the homes. So,
Right.
you know,
And they're getting into
It's-
lending.
I think it's just a matter of time.
lending.
You do?
know, it's a matter of
Oh, yeah.
time.
I think that it's a matter of time they want to do the whole thing, and it's coming with the internet changing and all this, all the stuff that's going on is coming. But I don't think they'll ever take away the agents, because the agents put forth so much value that you don't find with a company like Zillow. The agents that we have that are very good at negotiating, and that negotiation power can help the client so much that it takes away from the expense of that. So just like an inspection, if we can give them value by being able to negotiate more money off the house, it's worth that inspection. If that agent can do the same thing, give them value at buying the house, getting a better price on the house, or getting a better listing price on the house, then they're much better off with that agent.
Absolutely. I can't express enough how important it is for agents, inspectors, loan officers to basically offer value to their client.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that agents need to take a stand against the Zillows and the Realtor.com, because I just don't feel that it's offering a valuable experience. I just don't see that point. But one of the things that I do want to bring up with yourself, because you mentioned something that was pretty interesting, is you as First Rate Inspections actually coach other inspectors nationally?
Yes, we do. We coach, there's about 300 companies out there that are under our coaching group, and we have 7-8 companies.
Chris and I coach 10 companies. Some of them are in Maryland, New York, Illinois, California, Ohio, West Virginia. So we kind of know companies from all over North America.
Wow. Do you find that it helps grow your experience? Are the inspection guidelines the same in every state, or are they different by state by state? I mean, how do you work that out?
Well, it's all different in each state. We're a licensed state in Texas. Ohio is just now going to licensing. West Virginia, there is no licensing. California,
No license.
you print out a business card and hang a shingle and you're in business.
Wow. See, I definitely didn't know that. So from a point of view that somebody's listening to this podcast and they're saying, I want to be a home inspector, and perhaps they didn't meet at, Home Depot or whatever you want to say with that, but how do I become an home inspector? What's the process in Texas? How do they start?
Well, of course, you have to find a school, whether it be a real estate school. Champions is an awesome place to start.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you have all the online schools. If you can't go to a school for the education, you can do online. There are new requirements. It used to be like 390 hours for the home inspector. That's just the school part. Then you have to take your Texas test and your national test and pass both of them.
Okay, is there an intern? So when you pass your test, is there an internship? They have to do so many hours at an inspection company?
No, you do 40-hour ride-along while you're in school, and that's part of the TREX requirements for home
Yeah, I'm a big
inspectors.
believer in the real estate industry. What they should do is you should go to real estate school, just like they do with appraisers. And then what you should be doing is going to a broker, do so many hours, or do a training program. I know they do it with appraisers, and I think it's invaluable, to be perfectly honest, to do
Right.
that. And I really think it's important that they should do that with the real estate business. We've had instances before with people that, they close 5 houses, 6 houses, and then they want to do their broker's license, which I could never understand. But they recently increased that. But you was telling me earlier on in the corporate office that they've reduced the hours for inspectors now that you...
They
I believe it's
It was-
190 now.
It's 190. It actually was 450 hours before, and they've reduced it to 190. But what they've done is they brought in, when I got my inspection license, I just had a Texas test. So they kind of localized all the different things that we do to Texas. Now they have more national, I guess. So if people go from one state to another state, they don't really have to learn it all again because they've already learned it. So it makes it easier to transfer to other states.
So if you do, in effect, you do 190 hours is basically 6 days and 10 hours, correct? And then you can become a real estate inspector?
So right now, we have our latest hire. We went through the school. He started doing all the classes. He did all his classes, but since they changed the hours, he couldn't take any test until March 1st. So after March 1st, then he could start taking tests. Otherwise, he had to go through the 450 hours. He actually started testing right after because he already knew everything. Took all his tests, just finished all his tests. About 2-3 weeks later, he was able to take the national and the Texas test. Took that. He'll have his license the next few days.
And you tell me that your business is growing at the moment.
Our
You're actually hiring at the moment.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
definitely. And we've got 3 prospects going through school right now. We're looking at hiring one that's have interview with tomorrow that's been an inspector for 3 years, and have another one that's looking at going finishing up school here shortly. So we're probably going to be bringing in 4, 5, 6 inspectors.
Yeah, I think it was very invaluable. I thought it was valuable what you said earlier on when you said, you've got Spanish-speaking inspectors and you've got English-speaking inspectors. That's very important, to me with the community that we've got at the moment. And I do think it's important that you take the time and the trouble to explain things, to the client. Sometimes I think agents get involved too much if there's an issue with the property, because things can get diluted going third hand. I do think it's important that you work with an inspector just like yourself that can basically help you explain things. So you're hiring at the moment, you're taking on new inspectors. Where do you feel you're going to be in 3 years' time, 5 years' time as a company?
We're looking to double our size here within the next 2 to 3 years, and then going in from there. We're right now we're doing about 2,500 inspections. Our goal is get up into probably the 10,000 inspection area over the next 8 to 10 years.
And how do you see doing that, getting inspectors in different areas? Is that how you see that working?
Part of it's that. Part of it is just doing the proper marketing, going through doing a lot of more digital marketing, because we're looking at a younger clientele buying houses, and we're also looking at a younger agent.
And what type of person with their background do you think suits an inspector that may want to get involved more with becoming an inspector?
There's a couple areas that are really good. One of them is auto mechanics. believe it or not, because their systems are about the same as ours. So when they get out of school, we actually train them for another 8 to 12 weeks to make sure that they understand our side of the business, not just the knowledge, but seeing the actual on-hand type stuff. And those inspectors that have been in that industry have done really, really well.
Absolutely. And if people are interested, we do have Century 21 Olympian. We actually have an online site where people can get discounts for real estate, or if you're looking to get inspections, it's Olympian Texas, the ceshop.com, and you can basically go there and you can get some discounts at the moment. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That's Olympian Texas, the CE shop. We offer a discount for signing into this podcast and participating. We often, offer discounts. So, but you was basically saying that's the profile that you're looking for.
That's
Auto mechanics, give us a call. We want you. You need one of them stickers with the American guy, was it? We want you.
Yes, that's it.
Come and join our inspections. Anyway, anything else that you sort of want to add to this podcast? We appreciate you coming. It's been a pleasure. I just want to say thank you to Sherry, who always comes with us and gives us loads of candy in the office. I just don't tell my wife that I'm eating candy in the office because, But anyway, so Sherry's the one that comes weekly and makes sure we got plenty of business cards and candy in the office, and everybody ends up talking around the candy. So we want to thank you for that. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you, Ricky, coming. It's been a pleasure to sort of work with you in the future. And Chris, it's been a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I just want to thank you for that. So with that being said, thank you for everybody for participating. Luis Medina, actually, let's go to the chats. Luis Medina has a question, and it is: I had a client wanting to buy a home off FM 1960. I advised client not to buy as it was a rehab, and seller did not have any septic system reports. Also, property flooded twice. What's your opinion on that?
Well, they have been doing a lot of different things with the flood zones and stuff. If you'll notice, there's been a lot more retention ponds going in. They're widening a lot of the bayous and stuff like that. So I think a lot of the problems that we've had in the past are being addressed because of the past 2 floods that we've had. Even the flood that flooded, I think, 78 houses in Humboldt about a year and a half ago. So they are doing a lot of stuff to help alleviate that. The problem is a lot of these, like in Humboldt, it's not the Harris County, it's the counties next to it that are starting to flood off into those lower areas. So it's still causing issues. So flooded houses, me personally, I've been through so many of them during Harvey doing mold testing and stuff. I like to try to stay away from those areas, but sometimes that's the only affordable housing you can get.
Right.
But make sure you have flood insurance. That's what I tell people, because if you've been through it, you won't go without flood insurance again.
Absolutely.
Big
Absolutely.
uproar.
And it's interesting what Louis said there. Louis is the host for our Espanol Olympian Table podcast, and he was saying that them septic system reports.
Yeah, I definitely get an inspection. We use a gentleman that's a licensed sanitarian. He actually calls the city and finds out where all the things are, as far as where the drawings and stuff like that, where it was put in, so he can see if things are built over the top of it. He finds out if everything's proper distance apart and so forth, looks at the size, and a lot of things that a lot of inspectors don't do. They look at it and it's like, it's functioning. They don't know, if it's actually big enough to handle the clients that are moving in and so forth.
So you're saying it's a problem saying, yes, the septic's functioning, but what they're really not doing that way is seeing how efficient it is.
Right. And if it's done properly to the right codes and so forth.
Right.
So it will work for those people. The one that we had a problem with that I talked to you earlier about, it was an older couple that was in the house. So there was 2 people that didn't use a lot of water, but then a family moved in with 3 kids. So there was 5 people using all the tubs and showers and so forth. So they used a lot more water and they had problems.
Wow, that's interesting. Anyway, so once again, I want to thank you both for coming. It's a pleasure to get you here. Keep on living the dream. Nice to see if you know, another 3-5 years time, you've got that 10,000 inspections a year. I want to thank you for your participation. Once again, thank you everybody for signing in and taking part in the podcast. As I said, if you want to sign up, you want to be a real estate agent, or you want to become an inspector, please go to Olympian Texas, theceshop.com. Sign up for your classes. Even investors, we recommend that you go there to be better educated, so we can go ahead and get that done for you. But once again, thanks a lot. We appreciate you, and we'll see you all next week. We have a Spanish podcast on every Wednesday at 11:30, and we've also got the English podcast, which is every Thursday at 10 a.m. And I hope that my good friend James Lee will be from the Lee Group Loans will be here next Thursday. So we look forward to seeing you all. Have a great week and keep living the dream. We appreciate you all. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.